What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off the charts are showing and based off what the data is suggesting. I'm also going to break down what the technicals are showing for NIO, why tomorrow is going to be another important day as we have midterms for today, and also tomorrow is going to be the last full day for NIO to actually trade before the big earnings report. And I'm also going to break down what NIO put on their Twitter page, which makes me very bullish for the long-term future. Now, before I break anything down about NIO, before I talk about why underneath NIO could see a little bit of upside for tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be extreme, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any of these 12 free stocks could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 1 week. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at NIO, this thing ended up having a bit of a down day today. I did anticipate a kind of like a sideways day, but I did think that NIO could push up a little bit for today. However, it ended up coming down just a bit, but overall it's still holding up these levels better than where it was at, a couple of days ago. Now, when it comes to NIO, what are we essentially seeing? NIO is currently right in between this like gap that's way lower to the downside, and I mentioned this as a possibility. And also there's a gap up here around this like 10 points, let me see, 10 points like 9 range, very close to 11. So NIO is kind of like in the middle between them, right? It's right between 9.9 and about 10.9, right in the middle. So I do believe that it is possible for us to go either way, but what's more likely to me, in my opinion, is because of the fact that earnings is tomorrow. NIO is more likely to actually push and fill the gap to the upside and actually hold up pretty well. And what's very interesting about the market is we had a very, very strange day. Look at SPY. Okay, we actually had a very, very bullish push to the upside today. The market had it gapped down in the past. It's been on this nice uptrend over the last couple of days. And then for today, SPY continued to push up. Huge rally to about 385. Then a huge rejection. This thing crashed, got a huge bounce, pushed all the way back to about like 384, and we ended up closing just somewhat green. So I did anticipate a little bit more green for SPY, but we are seeing some weakness. Now, it's important to note that we have midterm elections today, and we're about to find out very soon who's going to control the House in the United States. And we know that when the red party, if you want to just call it that, when they tend to win, the market tends to actually improve a bit more, because what happens is the politicians are less likely to have more strict policies, they're less likely to regulate, and this is actually going to be in the favor of many businesses, right? And that's the reason why that could lead to some bullish price action. However, there are some red flags in this market. If you look at the VIX, many of us were anticipating the VIX to get a big bounce. We actually got a bounce on it, which is not the best of signs for the markets. I'm anticipating the VIX is going to trade a little bit sideways, but if this thing starts pushing up, this could be a red flag for the markets, because we have CPI on Thursday. It's going to be at the same time, or the same, like right before the market opens in the USA. And it's going to be at the same time as NIO's earnings, or a very, very close time, like I was trying to say. So that's also very concerning, in my opinion, because if CPI is high, the market could still take a big hit, and that would not be good for NIO as well. When it comes to NIO, we have earnings before the market opens on Thursday. All right, so it's going to be a very interesting day, because tomorrow is going to be the last full trading day before this earnings comes for the American markets. Remember, NIO is going to have its earnings like at, I forgot the time, it's like at 3, 4 a.m., something like that for people on the East Coast. So once we find out the numbers, it's going to really affect how the thing moves. When it comes to the data, NIO was lagging behind. It's starting to show some nice strength. It is actually starting to underperform compared to SPY, at least just a little bit, but I am anticipating some sideways action. Compared to the QQQ, however, you could see NIO has been outperforming it, which is a good sign, at least for the short term. Now, when it comes to analyst ratings, people are still bullish, and on a historical basis, NIO is actually green about 56% of the time on Wednesdays, so we are more likely to have a green day. And finally, looking at the data, the short interest still went up a bit. So we did see some shorts pile in, but overall, I do anticipate it's going to start to come down just a little bit for maybe tomorrow and the day after. The volume went down a bit when NIO dropped, which is actually a pretty decent sign, because if we drop on high volume, that's not the best of signs. And one thing that's worth noting is it's not like extremely low volume. It still is very close to the average volume. So it is a somewhat improvement in my opinion, but it's not very strong. And finally, the shortfall in percentage, obviously the shorts dominated the stock yesterday, but for today, I do think this is going to come down a little bit, maybe for tomorrow and the day after. Really depends on earnings from there. So the last thing I want to talk about is what NIO put on their Twitter page. We can see right here, the NAMI Mates 2.0 fitted with the first in-car full round AMOLED or AMOLED, I don't know how to say that, display transforms the car from a cold machine to a delightful companion. So I do agree that NAMI is a very good feature. It gives lots of life and companionship to the cars. I do believe it's going to be very bullish news for the long-term future once more and more people learn about this feature. So what am I seeing on the markets right now? What am I seeing for NIO? On SPY, where is SPY? Here it is. On SPY, we are starting to trade kind of sideways. We are still respecting a downtrend overall, but there is some potential for us to get a big bounce, because right now on the daily, SPY looks very undecided. If you look at the setup, it's very undecided on a direction, and I do believe midterms is going to affect how we move. I do believe it's more likely for the market to push up just a little bit tomorrow, at least somewhat, because of the fact that we do have the House most likely going to be won by the Red Party. It is most likely going to happen, in my opinion, but I can't make any promises, and that's why tomorrow is going to be, or I'm sorry, tonight is going to be like really important. I'm anticipating some more sideways action, but if you look at SPY, I mean, there's crazy volatility, so I do think we're going to trade in the range we're in, but there is potential for us to push up just a little bit more and retest 385 if things do go as planned. On the QQQ, what I'm noticing is this is actually not doing too bad. So right here, the QQQ managed to close kind of green. I did actually predict the QQQ would have a somewhat green day as well, which is once again a good sign for the NASDAQ. However, like I mentioned before, guys, I'd still be very cautious because CPI is coming up very soon, and some of the big sectors out there that really affect this are also important, such as Tesla. If you look at Tesla, it's not looking too good, to be honest, because Tesla gapped down pretty hard, got a nice bounce off 186, and overall it is still lagging behind the overall market. So midterms is actually negatively affecting Tesla. We're not seeing as many buyers step into these key previous demand zones. So Tesla coming down could actually be negative for the EV sector. So NIO is in a very weird state. I mean, you could argue that midterms may not be like that positive for NIO, but their earnings coming out, in my opinion, is a bigger factor that can actually push this up. So, in my opinion, okay, if you're watching NIO, uh, if this thing comes down, all right, and we break below this 10.3 level, we have a gap down here, all the way here. This gap is going to get filled at about 9.9 or so, around that zone. If NIO breaks below 10.3 and we start downtrending, all right, because Tesla has been showing some weakness during midterms, it is very likely NIO could fill the gap to the downside. But at the same time, there's a gap up here. This is around that 10.9 area. I believe that if NIO gets a big pump and we manage to break past this 10.7 resistance level, and we continue to pump, we could fill the gap tomorrow and maybe pump into the 11s, right? Getting ready for earnings. Very, very possible. Now, what I predict is the most likely possibility would be NIO getting a somewhat green day tomorrow, filling the gap to the upside and actually holding $11. I'm hoping for that this time because historically we do tend to be green on Wednesdays. Also, because of earnings, it should give NIO an extra boost. Now, if some of these like insiders and some of these investors know something won't be right, and you do see a sell-off, that could be a red flag. So be very careful. Be prepared for anything. Watch support and resistance levels. But like I mentioned, guys, I am still more bullish than bearish, and I am anticipating a nice push to the upside. Anyways, guys, that's essentially what I have for this video. Please remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.